New layout check.
Chat, is this a W layout? Chat.
This is like the 5th layout change we've had this season.
This is like the 8th time we've just changed things like mid-season. Like last season, we didn't even like start. We started.
We started at episode 8,
and we were just like, yeah, and we didn't know each other at all. That was a secret. Exposing.
Yeah, no, I mean, new setup. I mean, is it? You like it? You like our new intro as well, Will?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like the last one. It was a little Jack centric. I felt. I felt like, you having a voice line and me having nothing was kind of, as we say, BS. I'll let y'all fill in the words. But yeah, welcome to the Survivor StockWatch.
Well, hold on. I do the introductions here.
This is the Stocks. My name is Jack Powell. This is the Stocks. With me, I have Will West from Saving Bruce. Will, how'd you like the episode?
Welcome, everybody, to Survivor StockWatch, the penultimate episode of season 45. I am Jack. With me, as always, is Will. Will,
Jack.
how'd it do?
I'm doing pretty good. I made $15 today, so
All right.
living the dream. The holiday season's upon us.
How are you feeling this holiday season? You feeling comfy and cozy?
No, I haven't really been home a lot. I've been a busy man. I've been working hard, so it's been weird. It's been an adjustment. Like it does not feel like December 18th. It feels like November 11th.
Fair enough. Now, to get in the holiday spirit on our final episode, which is this Friday, everybody. It's going to be this Friday. A little bit late.
A little bit late.
Are we going to be wearing holiday themed clothing? Santa hat here, Santa hat there.
So I do have this hat, and it's somewhere in my house. I think my dog hid it for whatever reason, but it is a Christmas themed Peanuts hat, and it's my favorite thing in the whole wide world. And I have a few Christmas clothing. I mean, I'm not too crazy. I do have, speaking of the Peanuts, I do have the Christmas tree. So I'm just gonna put it in the background for now, and so you can just look at that whenever. But yeah, no, I'm feeling the holly jolly festiveness.
Well, speaking of the holly jolly festiveness, how about these castaways?
What?
Episode 12 has come and went on Survivor 45.
It has.
We are nearing the end, the conclusion to this saga of Survivor before we venture into season 46 sometime next year. I think February or March is the targeted premiere date. So how was this episode for you, Will? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it?
I mean, somewhere in the middle. I do think that Survivor 45 has peaked. I still maintain that. And I think this episode was just kind of one I expected. I think we talked about Drew going for a long time. And so I feel like, we talked about how he had no win equity whatsoever. And we kind of saw that today. I did like the juxtaposition between Drew being doom and gloom and Jake just being happy to play Survivor. But we'll get to Jake momentarily. But I thought this episode was just pretty good. Wasn't anything crazy,
Did you have a favorite part of the episode? Did you think it was? Did you not have a favorite part?
I mean, I loved the whole helicopter ride with Katora realizing she was the third wheel. I think that was a funny, funny little thing. We did have the Jake idol find, right? And, ever since Kelly won, I've made it clear I'm a huge Jake fan. I'm rooting for the guy, rooting for the little man. And so I thought that was pretty. I feel like this episode was pretty lighthearted, actually. I think that's a good way to describe that. And I think there's modern Survivor. I feel like a lot of the darker undertones of the season kind of went with Bruce. And I feel like at this point, everyone's just happy to be here. And then Drew is so over the top with him being disgruntled that it's just funny. I think that's a good way to describe the episode. What about you? Did you have a favorite part?
Yeah, I think Jake finding the idol was one of my favorite parts. I'd also have to say probably Dee's kind of dilemma of deciding whether or not to kind of break that trust with Austin by not telling Austin about the Drew blind side. I think that was gripping because, with how this is going, I think it's very important to see the person who is likely going to win having that thought in their head of what's going to happen. So I thought that was interesting and pretty entertaining to watch as well. I think, when you get to this point, and let's talk about this in comparison to all the other New Era seasons and when they get up to this point. Season 41, we get up to this point towards the end of the game. There's a couple people who we still think could win, right? Erica could win now. Xander could win. Ricard could win as well. Even Deshaun had an outside chance as well. Really, everyone but Heather.
Sorry, Heather.
Sorry, Heather.
There was one too. It's like she had. Yeah, I wasn't an Edgic guy in season 41, so I watched very casually, and I was on the Xander train. I like Xander. I still like Xander.
Season 42 kind of rolls around, and the penultimate episode is the episode where Marianne takes out Omer.
Yeah.
Establishing Marianne as the number one frontrunner, and it's pretty far and away her.
Yeah. You could also say Mike Turner as like the other, because
Yeah, the other contender.
The other.
43. Jesse was the number one contender.
Yep.
And then we got Gaylord, which will be a heavy point of discussion this episode.
Yeah. So, and with 43 too, it's like everyone is like Jesse. Some people thought, he had too good of an edit. And, they thought, Cassidy could have ran with it or even Carla. But Carla was losing a lot of steam anyways. Yeah. I do think, and then with 44, right? I know you're about to get to it. Yeah. That's when we started doing this. And there was a really big question of, is it going to be Carolyn or is it going to be Jam Jam? I feel like we ruled out Carson, and Heidi and Lauren at that point were just like side characters, NPCs.
Right. But the point I'm trying to bring up is that 41 and 43, relatively for 41, but big time 43, we got blindsided.
We did.
We got blindsided by the winner based on traditional Edgic. 42 and 44, we saw kind of resurgence. Can we venture to say that 45 is the same as 41 and 43 and that we will be shocked at the winner on Wednesday?
Yeah.
So you think so?
I think it's possible.
Oh boy.
I think what's happening is we're now doubting D. We can just say we all are very high on D. We've been high on D the entire season. I do think it's possible that we are getting Gablerd again. I think we could be getting Jaked. We could be getting Katora'd. But how much are we losing faith in D because of that? Where now D is also going to be surprising if she wins, And I do think the editors are playing off of that because, if we knew who was winning the season, it loses a lot of the steam for a lot of the casual fans.
Right.
And I do think this edit for the casuals it's been very fair and very balanced, I think, outside of like maybe Julie getting nothing. Where, a lot of people, they're saying everyone can run away with it, which I love. But yeah, no, I think I'm personally excited for the finale more than I thought I'd be, actually.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting finale because it's going to be that question of, are we getting Gablerd or are we not getting Gablerd? It's as simple as that. Because to be completely honest, the number one contender for both me and Will since Kelly has gone home has been D, and there's been no change, right? Like that has been our go-to. And it's really only until the past two episodes where D has kind of taken this game as her own. Whereas with like Jesse from 43, there's a couple episodes before And so, how long can you maintain that strength in your edit? And are you being coordinated? I think these past 2 episodes has been getting coordinated, and this last episode will have the coordination ceremony of the win. But it's a tough read. You really don't know. But
Yeah,
I think
and
we should get
we'll get to
into it.
D. Yeah, we'll get to D where I have a few more opinions, but it all come in time.
Right.
Let's start with a retrospective.
But Drew,
Hi,
we
Drew.
always thought he would go home. We originally thought a little bit earlier, but around this point, it makes sense. Pre-finale boot. 6th place has been filled with very, very good players over the past seasons with Danny, Omer, Cody, and Jamie.
Yeah, let's go.
Jamie's great. Jamie's great in her own way. But overall, pretty good players. And Drew kind of falls into that category. Are you surprised we didn't get that over-the-top -5 edit that we've so been clamoring this season?
I mean, it's weird. It's weird because I feel like Drew has this problem where he doesn't really fit into any one archetype. It's like, yeah, he's the nerd, but what kind of nerd? Is he like the evil villainous nerd, like a Cochrane? Is he going to be like the positive nerd, like Carson from last season? Like, or is he just going to be like the nerd, the neutral nerd, like Christian from David vs. Goliath, where it's like he had a lot of streaks of, complaining, eating the rice, not letting Jake have any from a few episodes ago. I still bring up stick bug, right? And I feel like it wasn't over the top negative, but there was a lot of negativity with Drew, especially after like episode 3, especially after episode 2, where he had one really, really strong premiere and then completely fell off. Which, is how it happens, how it goes. Right. And I don't know, like Drew was just weird this season.
Yeah, I think Drew's biggest strength as a player is his ability to dominate when in a dominant position.
Yes.
When he is in an alliance that's dominating the game, he's in the majority, or he's in a position of power in terms of idols or something like that, he does very, very, very well. And he's a very, very smart player. However, I think Drew's biggest hubris this season is that when he was targeted and when his name came up, he combusted. We talk about episode, 5, when Brando went home, so long ago. Episode 5, right, when Brandon went home. We talk about episode, an episode or 2 ago, where Jake and Drew had a fight. And this past 2 episodes as well, where Drew's name has come up. It sucks to see that, but at the same time, that's a big hubris in Survivor. When your name is thrown out there, how do you respond? How do you respond to the pressure? And Drew cracked.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Drew. Yeah, I don't blame him either. Drew's normally calm composure.
Yeah,
was thrown out the window for panic and belittlement at times. And I think that's Drew's downfall. And I think it caught up to him in terms of that, but as well as just kind of, not seeing the light of Dee and Julie's relationship, and not really maintaining good relationships.
It wasn't that. I think it was Austin and Dee. I think Drew trusted Austin a little too much, and Austin definitely trusted Drew. It's just Drew shouldn't have given Austin information. And I think Drew lost the game. He really lost the game when Emily went home, because Emily was still high on the Drew train for a while. Like they were tight. And that led to a very big downfall. Not very big downfall. It was a very subtle and very slow downfall, where over time, we've seen a lot of not ugliness, because I don't want to make it bigger than what it is. We just saw Drew in a light against Jake, right? And to me, it was clear that the edit wanted Jake to be the fan favorite. Jake was the underdog, and it kind of goes to show like how much being an underdog can help, because, we go from like, oh yeah, Drew, he's cool, but now he's like a pompous a-hole because he's in the Power Alliance.
Right.
And then Emily is now like a fan favorite because she was down in numbers coming to merge, right? When episode 1, it was a completely different tune for both of them. So, we can kind of see the power of the edit, power of, who the fan favorites are. But at the end of the day, Drew was just a little too big for his britches.
He played good, though. Undeniably one of the better players of the season.
Yeah.
Basically all the read before. You can throw Emily in there as well. Top player of the season. Very strategic, very smart. Just his downfall was coming. We knew it would be, and here it came. Now we move on to probably the least important of the final 5, unfortunately. In terms of this episode, it was very compelling seeing Austin's perspective when Dee just completely pulled out the rug from under him and betrayed him. And, now we see him in this position where, again, he would have had his idol if he didn't give it to Julie. And I want to bring something up about that, actually, because I did a little digging, did a little post-game digging.
I know what this is about.
Yeah. So apparently, Austin and Drew basically immediately knew that Julie was not going to be on their side anymore once Julie had the idol. Because, when Drew and Julie were having a conversation and the idol was brought up that Julie had, Julie, instead of saying, oh, Austin's idol, said, no, it's my idol. No, it's my idol. And that tells you right there all you need to know, that Julie is not giving that idol back. And so Austin and Drew kind of realized Julie's got to go. And while I don't think that is the downfall, I truly think the downfall of his game, is a little bit of not trusting Dee too much, but it's not having the backbone. We talked about this so many times on this podcast, but again, Austin lacks a backbone, and he treated this episode as, hey, this is going to be an easy vote. We're good, right? I think we're good. And didn't act. He didn't play the idol for Drew, and he lost. He got completely blindsided. Not at home, obviously, but to the point where, in my opinion, he's on the bottom.
He is. And I think he lost. I mean, he lost the game a while ago. Again, the edit set this up, right? Again, we constantly go back to the Caleb vote, where Jake... And, we didn't know at the time, but Jake correctly assessed that Austin wouldn't have a backbone. And I feel like Austin's problem is he's not able to detach the game enough, where he was so worried about his personal relationships, where if he was worried, he should have put more effort in forming them and then being able to rebuild them. Because if you're good enough friends with someone on a personal level, you'll be friends outside of Survivor. Dee will be there outside of Survivor. Voting her out isn't going to ruin anything, especially with the mindset a lot of the players have nowadays, where you get blindsided and you're laughing and everything's all good and fancy. It's not season 1 anymore. And so I felt like that was a big thing on Austin's game. And at this point, the edit again, it's setting up to show us that Austin is not in power, not in control. And he's kind of a goon, He
is a goon. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, if you see our trend lines this season, I think we got it pretty good. he was always going to go here. This is it. He was maybe going to make the finale, final 6, final 7, whatever. Here it is. This is it. This Austin will go in the finale. I don't think we'll make the final 3. I think it will be 5th, most likely, maybe 4th, but we'll see.
I don't even see 4th. I think 5th or 3rd.
You think honestly. 5th or 3rd? You think 3rd? Really? You think number 1 losing finals?
Yeah, I think I can still see Jake getting some votes. I think Dee is the obvious front runner. I think Julie. Speaking of, hi Dee. I also think Julie's not making. I do not see her at all at Final Tribal Council. So,
right.
Hi, Dee.
And now we get to Dee, who, again, just had a pretty great episode. Winning immunity, betraying Austin. New Parvati question mark?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of
Formulaically
formulaically.
betraying a man who was interested in you and usurping power. That's
I mean, yeah, but
Parvati.
at the same time, we call everyone Parvati. I think at one point we called Troyzan Parvati 2.0 in
Well,
Game
to be
Changer.
fair, I think this is the most apt. I think this is the most apt
I still think
application.
Troyzan a Game Changers, but
Okay.
we can keep that going.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, D has been number one at least for me. For what? Count them. 7 episodes.
Yeah,
Will for 5, which is reasonable.
Kelly, she was number 2, so it's like
Yeah, it's D's game to lose right now, right? D is the number one. The only question is, we live in a post-Gabler world. This is the most important thing you will see on StockWatch is, I think, going forward with kind of situations like this, where you have such a clear front runner, number one, and you have a couple of people that could win but also couldn't, whereas D is the most likely. Are we getting Gabler? Like, that is paramount to figuring out the winner, because now it's a guessing game.
Yeah.
Before, take it back to season 33, let's say. If David didn't have the edit that he had, and to a lesser extent Jay didn't have the edit he had, Adam would be locked in as the number one contender. Or rather that, copy paste this season into the 30s to the 20s, and you have D as the front runner, and D will win. There was no doubt. Now there is, because of Gabler. What do you think about this, Will?
Yeah, so there's a few. The problem is D's edit is not perfect. There are a lot of faults and flaws with your gameplay. How much of this is just to hide and mask D because she was in a steamrolling alliance and pretty much just won her way to the end and steamrolls? How much of it is because she doesn't win despite being in control? Like, honestly, I think there's a lot of things, not a lot, but there's enough things to give credence to D losing, right? One, Austin could be very bitter and, realize like, hey, D is playing to win. The jury could be very bitter. Drew, I think most of all, is one of the most bitter jurors we've had in a long time. And I'm saying that in a very good way. I love bitter jurors. Yeah. They've led to some of my favorite winners. Kelly could still be mad. And I could see Jake kind of being the champion for a lot of the Bello members, right? And I feel like D is more strategic, while I feel like Jake, who is my number 2, is more personal. And it's which one matters more in such a game like this.
Right.
It's weird. I don't know. I can go either way.
Do you have any other opinions on D? Like, what have you thought? Like, okay, give us a quick hit highlights. What are some of the pros to D winning, and what are some of the cons? Because we have to, if we're talking personal versus strategic, there's no denying that D's had some personal content as well. It's just where that content was. Because if you can recall, she had a great personal episode, I think 4 or 5 of this season. She didn't get a letter confessional really at all.
Yeah, so, I mean, the thing is, I think a lot of her, again, I think her edit, if she does win, is getting subdued. Just because you can't just say like, hey, I'm the winner. Or if you're going to do like a Richard Hatch, you have to, still leave some doubt. And D is getting that strong of an edit where if she does come out and say like, oh yeah, if she has like a crystal clear edit, we'd be concerned. Really, I think a lot of her highlights are just being a part of the Power Alliance. We're always seeing D's thought process. We're getting the jam effect where it's like, you suggest my name, you get voted out, right? We saw that with Kendra. We kind of saw, between last episode and this episode, like, do I trust, my personal connections and do I not, right? Like, D blindsided Austin when Austin was too afraid to blindside D. And I think that gives credence to a D win. D just being labeled, not even being labeled, but she was never really labeled a threat like Mama J. Julie has always been labeled a threat. If she makes it to the end, then she loses, and that's not good. Well, with Dee, we don't really see that a lot, and her threat management has been really good. It's just, again, I feel like, and she has been getting personal content. I'm not saying, Dee's a robot, but like the focus of Dee isn't like who Dee is as a person, it's Dee the player. And that's fine. And that leads to a really good winner. It's just there's still some doubt, personally.
If it doesn't, let's say this, if Dee doesn't win, what kind of level is that on in terms, I mean, obviously besides Gaylord, what kind of level of runner-up should have won the game is that, or does it set a new precedent? And two, what does it mean going forward? Because that would mean effectively two Gaylords in 3 seasons.
So
go ahead.
I mean, the first question, it's like, how deserving, like, are we trying to compare it to like previous seasons of like where we're at with a decoy winner?
Put it in every single season. Compare it.
So I mean, I would kind of compare it to, I mean, 40. I mean, we can compare it to 41, right? Where Dee was kind of like Shan, where Shan still had a lot of, negativity with her edit. She wasn't.
Let me rephrase. Put it against a scenario where it's a winner and a runner-up, where more people felt like the runner-up was way more deserving than the winner. And there's certain levels to that. Sabrina versus Kim, there's an argument for Sabrina, but Kim was so strong. Versus Russell Hantz versus Natalie, where everybody believed Russell Hantz had the game completely won.
Now, I can this might be a little spicy, but there is a final tribal council that you did not talk about that is still very spicy and people still argue about. And that is season 32, Go Wrong, right? Aubrey versus Michelle fiasco. And I feel like it's kind of like it's comparable to that, right? Where Michelle won based off her social connections, her personal connections, right? And kind of had a bitter jury where the jury just did not like Aubrey. And, Ty, he was just there.
Despite the fact that Aubrey strategically controlled a great deal of the game.
And that is similar to Dee, I feel like. I feel like if Dee loses Final Tribal Council to Jake, right, I don't see a lot of other combinations, except for maybe Katora, if we're really pushing hard. I feel like, we're getting another Go Wrong, right? Or another 43. And what does that do for the rest of the season, for the future of Survivor? I think, people. I think we're out of the game bot era. I feel like the 30s, it was a lot of game bots, and they're my least favorite archetype type
Which
of player.
Is good. Admittedly, I think that is good that we're out of that.
And I think, especially with 90-minute episodes, it's more about the people. And I think that's a lot of, Survivor right now. It's like we get a lot of intro packages. Everyone has the sob story. And as much as we dunk on that, I feel like we're going to get not more of it, but it's going to be more focused, right? I think it's going to be more about the connections people have made and, and I think people would try to win like that, right? Where they don't need to control every single vote. And I already think the meta of Survivor is you make an alliance of like 4, right? Early on, you have a tribe of 6, and then you pump one or 2 people up as like the big shields, right? You have your Kelly, you have your Emily, you have the big guns, your Jessies, your whoever's, and you snipe them at the very end. I think what's going to happen is we're going to get a what is it? The regulators from BB13, how they tried copying the brigade and failed miserably.
Oh, okay.
I think we're going to get something like that where people will try to game the system to a point where they can't do it and they don't have the finesse and they lose. And it's going to cause other people to go like, wait, that doesn't work like that. What can we do?
Right.
What do you think?
It's going to be interesting. I mean, if D does lose, I mean, obviously we both think that D is going to make the final tribal council. I don't see a way that she loses that fifth or fourth.
Yeah.
I do think she makes. I think beyond that, fire making loser, but I do think she makes the final tribal council. If she does lose, I think you're right. I think it is on the level of Michelle and Aubrey in terms of
Yeah.
deservedness, because there's two kind of tiers to that, or there's two separate, similar-ish levels to that. There's the clearly the runner-up deserved to win, says the fans,
Yeah.
but the winner won. Amber and Rob, Natalie and Russell. You can argue Sophie and Coach, but that's
You can also argue Gavin and Chris Underwood. I'd say.
Sure, absolutely. And then there's the other one, which really has only happened with Michelle and Aubrey, I'm pretty sure, where it's just been so. It really can go either way. Michelle and Aubrey both played winning games in a row. They both deserved to win that season. Michelle did. And so it kind of raises that question of, could this get to that level?
And can I say something real quick too to the Survivor world? If you win a season of Survivor, right, you deserve to win. Because the only blueprint of winning Survivor is you make it to the very end and you get the jury votes. All you need. And we've seen people get voted out and come back in and win. We've seen people get voted out, come back in and lose a lot of times. We've seen, your Fabios and Bob Crowleys and Gablers. And then you've also seen Kim Spradlin. Anyone there's a lot of ways to skin this cat. And so I better not see if Jake wins or if Katora wins or if Austin wins. I better not see, D should have won. I hate Survivor. If D wins, she deserves it. Anyone else?
If D wins, she does deserve it. But
hi, Jake.
You also have to consider Exhibit 2 here. He's obviously clearly fan favorite of this season. Not the main character, and I wouldn't. There's arguments for fan favorite. Caleb's there, Emily's there, but surely one of the main, and surely one of the fan favorites of the season. But now everyone's like, is he gonna win because of that? I think it's obviously D is the best chance. Put it like this. Put it like a 95 to 2.5 to 2.5 in terms of 95 D, 2.5 Jake, and 2.5 someone else we got to.
I'll do 95, 4, and 1 with Jake.
I could see that. Jake found an idol this episode. He made a move, it was a correct move, and he got it done. The point I want to argue, 2 points actually. Number one is that, Jake wants to make this move and wants it to be secret. The next shot he gets shown, getting dunked on by Katura and D, going 1, 2, 3, Drew.
Yeah.
That's number one. And I think it's the biggest damning reason is that Jake honestly wants to do something right and something good in the game, but that's what other people want to do at the same time as well, and they've already played stronger games.
Yeah. I will say the finale still has to happen.
It does.
And what I could see is a triumph story, right? Where Jake, he starts out completely, he's on the outs, he's getting laughed at for being a lawyer. But beyond that, he was always a very genuine guy and built relationships, right? And, he struggled the entire season. But now, when push came to shove, he found an idol and he's going into the finale with an idol. Which,
right.
He could idol out D.
Jesus! All right, hold on.
This is getting crackpot, but he hasn't been out of the flow of information since the Kelly vote. He's known where the chips are falling outside of Emily. I forgot about Emily, but who cares? Idols, whatever. Like, he knew about Kendra, he knew about Bruce, he knew about, everything. And so he could dogpile on someone, or even himself, which I doubt, because at this point everyone wants to take Jake to the end. And I don't know. I could see him being ballsy, and that could be the triumph, right? Where like Final Five, he idles out Dee or Julie or one of the big threats, and has that, and he could say like, "Look, I tried making moves the entire game. No one listened to me. No one had my back. I had to make action. I had to do it. I only had myself vote for me to win." That'd be compelling. I'm just saying.
The second point I want to bring up is something I
Bring it up.
talked about the previous episode of StockWatch. It was a decent episode from Jake, but I wanted to see an episode where he recognized that he needed to have a more personal story. He needed to really turn this into a triumph personally, and he needed to own his game. He's doing that a little bit, but he's not focusing on the journey aspect of it. He's focusing on, I got to make a move. And I think that's a big problem for Jake, right? Like, I think it's a big problem. You're going up in the end. You're not going to out strategic Dee, the one who ran the Reba 4 to the end of the game and then won. You're really not going to out strategic that. And so what do? And so I don't think Jake had that necessary element to this episode, which makes me very lenient or very wary of it.
Yeah, but at the same time too, it'd be boring if we just said, yeah, Dee's winning. So, and I think no matter what too, there's also faults with Dee's edit. There's faults with Jake's edit. And the fact that we're living in a post-Gabler world.
Oh my God.
like
Post-Gabler.
Post-Gabler. Good Lord. We do our best here.
We do.
And everyone else, like, I don't know. And plus, I'm also just rooting for Jake. I think it's the same thing with Kelly, where I had her at number 1, despite there being problems, because I was rooting for her. So it is very possible that Jake makes it to Final Tribal Council and just gets completely dunked on. And instead of this triumph edit, he's just getting Jamie'd. Because we're also living in a post-Jamie world where he just gets dunked on for no reason. But,
yeah.
2
more points I want to bring up with Jake before we mosey on our way. Number 1, let's put it into perspective for Jake. We put it into perspective for Dee if she lost. Put it into perspective if Jake wins. What does it mean moving forward for future players, kind of the edit and our understanding of it as it evolves in this new era? What does it mean?
It means, I don't know. It means we're going to get a lot worse contestants. I think what's going to happen is this isn't Gabon enough. This is still a little bit of Cagayan. I think 46, we're just going to get full-on Gabon, right? Like 43, where not even 43, like a season where everyone sucks at Survivor, but they want the narrative. And then Survivor is going to be like, all right, we need actual players again. And then 47 will be like Tocantins to Gabon, I think that's what's going to happen. I think a Jake win, honestly, though, bodes very well for the future of Survivor.
It'll be interesting. What was I going to say for my...
You're going to say that Jake is definitely winning.
No, I was not going to say that. I forget. But, Jake has been, regardless, a delight this season.
Yep.
Hopefully he does come back at some point, regardless if he wins or not. But see. We move on to our final 2. Contenders, contestants, whatever. Julie, we've kind of ruled her out a while ago, but what do you think? Because I don't think she makes the final tribal council, I'm going to be honest. I personally think the final tribal council is Dee, Katura, and Jake. My question is Julie losing fire making, or is Julie going at 5th?
I personally thought Dee and Jake were going to fire making. And I'm just saying, if Jake does idle out D at 5 and then beats Julie at 4, a final tribal council of Austin, Jake, and Katora, pretty good. But I think she's just like the Lindsay of this season. Just the well-rounded, all-around player, not too hot, not too cold, easy Steven. I feel like I ruled her out, but at the same time, it's kind of like how we viewed Austin very early on, of just good player out at 5. I think is Julie's thing, but just out at 4. I don't know why I have her position number 3. I think I meant to put her at number 4, and this next person at 3. But yeah. I just don't have a lot of opinions about Julie. I think the one most damning piece of evidence when it comes to Julie is her personal content was locked behind a secret scene, which
that's the most damning thing for an edit.
Yeah,
I think hands down.
I think the fact that means that Julie as a person is not compelling for the season,
or not important for us to see.
Important enough to like share because everyone matters as people. Even Hannah Rose and Sean Edwards, we'll throw y'all in there. But yeah, no, I hate to say it, but yeah, I kind of ruled out Julie a bit ago. And again, the fact that everyone's calling her a threat means she's not making Final Tribal Council, because who wants to take Mama J to Final Tribal Council?
Right. I think it's a matter of two things. I think you're right with the first thing in terms of that secret scene being cut. I mean, straight up. I mean, a lack of personal content overall in the game, but a secret scene of really impactful personal content being cut spells loser.
Yep.
It's unfortunate because it's really important to the person, but when you don't have that and when the people don't see that, it's not important to the show. It's not important to the 90 minutes we get. And number 2, I think that her whole mama attribution has caught up to her. I mean, it's made her a threat the past couple episodes, and I think it will be enough for people to get rid of her. That being said, her edit has not been the strongest. I mean, I'm not going to lie. She's a middle of the road overall for me, y'all. Like, she had the last 2 episodes be complex, this one and the previous one, and her second one. The rest were middle of the road or under the radar. And, we talk about this and about maybe Final Four Fire making threat, but to me, this reads more like a Lindsay kind of elimination.
Yeah, I could see that. This is going to be an oddball pick, but do you know what Julie's edit kind of reminds me of? This is a little crackpot, maybe too crackpot. Remember Rick from South Pacific?
Yes, Rick had like no edit.
But I feel like Julie had a better Rick in terms of narrative and just like Lindsay, where it's like she was always in the power structure. She was playing a pretty good game, but like that, and then her always being tethered to D, I think is even more damning. I feel like Julie is D's shield, and that is the biggest plus to D's game. And I feel like I see Julie. I just think Rick.
I don't blame you. I think Rick on paper,
more visible Rick.
Yeah, I think a more visible Rick would be equated to Julie. I still think Lindsay a little
I guess
so, for 42. But yeah, I mean, Julie is heading towards likely elimination in the finale. We'll see where it lands. And now we move on to the final one, Katura, who you have at 4. I'm not sure if you want to hot fix that.
Yeah, or not. 3.
Okay.
3, and then Julie at 4. I don't know why I did that, but
now if Katura does make the end of the game, right? It's D, Katura, and Jake. Those votes, those bitter votes against D that could turn to Jake, could they actually go to Katura instead, based on her fact of having a strong social game and also not receiving a single vote so far this season?
Well, let's say she gets Kelly and Kendra. She's not getting Bruce. at all. Let's just throw Bruce away, right? Like, could she get Drew? Maybe, because if Drew's bitter towards Jake and Julie, or not Julie, Jake and D, then Drew, right? Assuming that is the final, final whatever. Assuming Julie goes and is fine with D and Austin, whatever, right? Like, I don't know, because how many votes are there? Right, there's
8 votes.
8 votes. I can see her getting 3. It's just the other 2. It's like, does she get Caleb and Emily? Maybe, but like, again, like, do we think of Katora and Emily at all, or like Caleb and Katora? I don't know. And that's the thing. It's like, at least Katora's problem. I think she had one of the worst edits this season, straight up.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think there's no denying that Katura just got absolutely shafted and basically had a great premiere and a great past 3 episodes. This episode is a little bit more. I wish we had a bigger episode for Katura to really make it more interesting, but Katura really didn't have much this episode at all. But the previous 2 episodes, and then the rest was Bruce.
Yeah.
Like that, it's unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate. We talk about kind of lunacy in the edit, being made to look like a fool. Take Jamie from last season. But we, maybe we're meant to see Katura as a fool this season. She's not. She got her way when Bruce went home. Like, to me, Katura has been the most unjustifiable edit from the editors this season. Yeah. Just in terms of how they've left it.
Like, the fact that it goes from I hate Bruce, I hate Bruce, I hate Bruce to I was in a religious cult and finally integrated with society when I was 14, like, it is such a curveball. And it's like, I think of even like the weird BS winners, right? I think of like the Fabio, the Bobs, the Gablers, but it's like Katora isn't wacky enough to be in that category. Jake is, in my opinion. I think Jake is wacky enough and bad at Survivor enough. But it's like Katora is only about Bruce, but it's not even like insane enough. And it's like, I do think Katora is 3rd place, right? Either that or even Austin. But like, I don't know where Katora fits in this puzzle. That is the biggest thing. She's just the biggest question mark and has been since like episode 4.
Right. Yeah. Again, Katura has been the biggest question mark in terms of her edit, and also the biggest disappointment in terms of her edit.
Yeah.
If she wins, let's throw this handy dandy scenario out there. If she wins instead of D, instead of Jake, what does it mean? Because this is different from Jake winning. If Jake wins, it's, personal stories matter more. Triumphing over tough times matters more. If Katura wins, what is the story? What is the thought process moving forward?
I think what that means is that we're going to have players who are willingly putting themselves in perilous positions by being against, an alliance and biding their time and waiting for the alliance to implode. I think if Katora wins, what needs to happen is the strongest finale this side of San Juan del Sur, right? I feel like we think of strong finales, please close your mouth. That's really bothering me. Don't have your jaw hanging open. God, I'm speaking here. I think we think of strong finales. We think of, Natalie Anderson, Chris Underwood, definitely. And, I feel like maybe Marianne. I don't think Marianne had a strong finale, just a strong stretch,
Okay, yeah, but like out of nowhere, right? Like, I think Chris is the most apt out of nowhere because he literally came back in the game in the finale.
Yeah. No, it's weird.
It is weird.
And I think honestly, Katora winning means the worst for the future, because I think it's going to allow steamrolls to happen, assuming that you can break up
Right.
the alliance.
And you can just ride, right? As long as you're socially like in the groove with that.
At least if D wins, then it's going to kind of have the Black Widow Brigade effect where people are so scared of another Reba 4, of another D, that they'll be proactive, especially after the Tika 3 and Reba 4. I think people are going to be more, trying to break up that mold.
Yeah,
if Katora wins, that means that behavior is getting rewarded. And as much as I like Katora, I just don't want that to be the story, and that is the story being told right now.
Right.
And if Jake wins, then Survivor's getting canceled.
Yes. Okay, quite literally so. The last thing I want to point out with Katura is that does her Edgic strip, which we'll get to in 2 slides. On the top of your head, if you can recall Katura's Edgic strip,
I'm looking at it.
Does it remind you of Gabler's? Are you reading it right now?
I am.
Okay. Listen to this. This is from a fan Edgic that I looked up, just a random one, right?
Yeah.
CP medium 5, over the top medium 3, CP medium 3, over the top -3, under the radar -2, over the top -4, over the top medium 4, middle road 3, middle road 2, CP4, middle road 3, middle road 2, middle road +3. Those last 3 episodes for Gabler weren't even like the coronation episodes, right? In fact, they were more Jesse's coronation episodes. Yeah. But it didn't matter because he won. And so looking at Katura's strip, which, we'll just jump ahead right now. Looking at that strip, like squinting at it, sorry for the size.
It's all good.
Is it similar?
The problem is, I don't think it's negative enough. I think with Gabler, there was still the over-the-top negative. Like, Gabler was put in bad positions, right? Like, episode 1 Gabler, terrible at Survivor. One of the worst players, ever. One of the worst premieres for a winner outside of, Nick and DVG.
Yeah.
And I feel like Katora's missing, again, it's not enough. Like, it's bad, it's negative, but it's not negative enough. It's not cartoonishly negative, like with Gabler. Because Gabler, it was so out of left field where that was like the running joke with my family, where it's like my dad would come in, he's like, yeah, that old man's winning. And I'm like, ha, get real. We all know it's Cassidy. And then, Gabler wins. That's like, what? But it's not like cartoonishly. And I think that's the only reason why I'm not giving Katora enough credence, and that's why she's below Jake. Because at least with Jake, it's cartoonishly like, what the heck? Think back to Fabio, think back to Bob Crowley, think back to Chris Underwood, and I think that is also important to keep in mind.
Right. So the main question left with Katura at this point: are we getting Gablered, or why are you staring like that? Stop it. Are we getting Gablered, or are we getting Deaned from season 39? Because, Dean built himself up towards the end and then just, didn't win. Are we getting Deaned, or are we getting Gablered? And that's the question I want to leave y'all with.
So I don't think Katora's pumping herself up like Dean. I think if there is a Dean, it's going to be Jake. Where Jake this is how you play. I'm a good swimmer. Is how you play Survivor.
I'm a good swimmer. I found an idol. Here's how I'm gonna play Survivor.
And I love. By the way, I love Dean. He's one of my favorite losing finalists.
He's a great losing finalist.
Kind of wish he won.
God, that Dean and Nora losing finalist room is so good.
The worst season ever. Great final.
The worst season ever. Great losing finalists.
But
anyway,
yeah, I don't know. It's again. I think Katora just had the worst edit, probably since Heather, legit. Where it's just, I don't know where to place her in this story, and that's something she could have. I think it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be come from behind, or what could also happen is Katora has, a lot of momentum going into the finale, and she built herself up, and then, train crash right at the very end. Crackpot theory, but, I was reading online where in the first challenge, opening challenge, Probst was calling the Bellows having a comeback. Jake's like, don't call it a comeback, Jeff. And then the Bellows lose. And I think that's also a very apt narrative for the Bellows of like them finally gaining momentum and then ruining it at the 11th hour. I think that could also happen with Katora. It's just hard to tell. It is.
We'll see.
We will.
Look at our meme. Funny little meme this episode. Third wheel, third place. Foreshadowing? Maybe.
Probably.
D with a bye. I mean, I think, D's, you can't really sell the winner, quote unquote. You can't really sell the winner. You need to have as much stock of that as you can because it will be worth gajillions. You sell it at the beginning of next season. That's what you do. But yeah, again, yeah.
We know stocks.
Yeah. D just had the best episode. We could get Gablered with Jake or Gatura, but D had the best episode. Jake and Julie with a sell. I put Jake as a sell because his episode needed more from me. Like he needed a little bit more of that personal content. But also, we kind of figured he was going to go at this place. Let's dive on back to him. Yeah, that's D. We kind of figured he was going to go like second or third. Around episode 8, right? You can argue 7, but episode 8. And so we've known this for a while. And so that's also not the wrong slide. We've known this for a while. And we know that Jake is nearing this point where, all right, now it's time to sell. And I think Jake, it's a Gabler scenario if he does it.
Yeah.
Julie is a sell as well. Julie was also likely going to make this point very early on. We kind of called it. She was going to make the finale. And now it's time to sell that stock as well. Simple as that. Katura at a double sell really needed a big episode from her, in my opinion, to keep her in as much contention. Because I agree with you, Will. I think this isn't I don't think this is a more of a Gabler kind of edit for her. I think it's more of a Heather kind of edit where she doesn't lose at fire. She just loses at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then Austin at a, why do you have this? You sold them all 2 episodes ago, an episode ago. Why do you have the stock anymore? Sell it if you have any, I guess. And then we'll go to the Edgic. Do you have any thoughts?
No. I mean, I was the person who put Austin at the why do you have this? That was my first time having a contribution on the stocks.
That was his contribution. Well done.
I also wanted to put Jake at a stay, but Jack wasn't feeling it, which I get. But yeah, no, that is the Edgic. I mean, D is far the way the front runner. It's just the fact that she's been the front runner since episode 2, outside of 4 and 5. Even then, she was still high on the contenders. Is a little scary.
It's dominant.
She's been a contender the entire season, and if we are getting Gabler, then we gotta look at who wasn't on the contender sheet until episode 8, which is my boy Jake. So you never know.
Which is, we could be getting extra Gabler with Katura because, she was the top contender first 3 episodes. And then, come back.
True. Or Austin wins the game.
No.
All right.
That is going to do. Oh, wait. No, hold on. That's the incorrect conclusion. Will!
Hi.
This has been the stocks.
All right, calm down. You're scaring me.
Do you have anything else to say?
Make sure you tune in 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the finale, where it's going to be a long episode because we're going over. It's more of a retrospect, right?
Yeah, we're going to do a nice little rites of passage for everybody, a little retrospect, kind of explain how they mattered to the season, what was their role in the winner story, and things like that. But
yeah, I will say. I deleted my rankings for every player that's been voted out.
Yep. So we got to make them all again.
Yep. I gotta comb through every single podcast. So wish me luck.
Woohoo! All right. Well, one more episode.
One more.
Wednesday at 8. Gonna be a banger. We'll see you on Friday at 10 o'clock.